I've been a firefighter slash EMT for a few years now. In my first year, my partner and I got dispatched to a fall. Two kids fresh out of high school were out hiking and decided to climb a rock face. One of them fell and was impaled by a stump of a tree. I remember getting where he was and his whole body was trembling uncontrollably. I went to work trying to stop the bleeding as a pool of blood had already formed around the stump, while my partner called dispatch to get a helicopter. This kid looked at me and stuttered out, "Am I going to die?" I told him I was doing everything I could, and I needed him to keep talking. I didn't say anything for about 30 seconds after that. When he finally did say something, it was, "I don't want to die." This kid was within a year or two of my age, and he's depending on me and my partner to keep him alive. That was a moment where I was wondering what the hell I was doing in this profession, and if this was something I could continue doing. The kid didn't make it. The helicopter wasn't available, and even if it was, he would have bled out before it arrived. I ended up in counseling from that call. I'm still here doing the same job, and I still love it. So I was an EMT working the 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift. We pick up our rig and get told to post, hang out and wait for a call in a really shitty part of town. I parked behind this shopping center where all of the businesses were closed down due to the lack of people around the general area. There were a lot of trailer parks, really run down apartments and whatnot. I picked this place because the sun was going to rise in an hour or so, and my partner and I both wanted to take a nap until a call came through the radio to us. My partner has no problem sleeping while sitting up straight in front of the ambulance. I absolutely cannot do this, so I went to the back and laid down on the bench and tried to take a nap. The thing about our shitty old ambulance is that you couldn't open the side door from the inside, so I had to get out, go through the side door, not the very back double doors though, and lay down. I left the side door a little bit cracked open for when a call came through, so I could jump into the front to respond. About 5 minutes of me laying there, and I hear my partner call me, "Hey, dude, you awake?" I say, "Yeah, what's up?" in response. That person over there has been staring at us for a while. Across the street, there was a sidewalk along the side of the park. I could make out a faint shadow of a person. I knew it was one because I could see their cigarette butt flicker every time they took a puff. The streetlight was super dim, but I could tell that they were there, just staring at us. It was super weird, so we watched them for a bit. After about 5 more minutes of us just watching, the person walks away. We joke about how weird people are, being up at 5 a.m. roaming around some sketchy park. I lay back down and start to doze off. I wake up to my partner saying, "Holy shit, dude," so I pop my head up into the front cabin. The person was standing like 20 feet from our ambulance, dressed in all black, staring at him, eyes locked. I looked at her face, and I shit you not, she looked like the girl from The Ring. She had pitch black straight hair, wearing all black, and very light-skinned. The streetlight made her look like she was white as paper. My partner is absolutely terrified as they've entered some weird sort of staring match. I told him to hop over into the driver's seat and get the hell out of there. He says, "I can't, I'm too scared to move." Shit, well I guess I have to squeeze from the back through this little ass space to get into the driver's seat. I jump up and try to get in the front cabin. It's a tight squeeze because I'm a bigger guy, but I made it through. She apparently takes notice of me moving and starts power walking straight to us. I've never been so freaked out in my life. As she gets super close, I realize she's looking at the side door that I left a little bit opened, just in a crack. I'm thinking, shit, I forgot to close it. I get a good look at her face. She's noticed that door, and I know she's gonna try to get in through it. Maybe she's gonna try killing me? I don't know, but I have to get the hell out. Her whole body is shaking as she gets closer and closer, still staring at my partner. She gets up right next to his window and just stares at us both, right in our eyes. I get into the front without 1 second to spare, start the ambulance, and peel the hell out. We never posted there again. So, I've been a career paramedic, but this happened when I had only been one for like 5 years. This has never left me to this day, and I shit you not, it happened exactly like this. I was driving home on a rural highway one rainy afternoon. It was really pouring, and traffic had slowed down to about 50 miles per hour. I was following 2 vehicles, and we rounded a bend in the road as a small sports car on the opposite side crossed the center line and hit the small SUV that was leading the three of us vehicles on the side of the road. I immediately pulled over and called 911. It was a bad one. I got out to check on everyone. There was wailing coming from the SUV on the side of the road. That's always a good thing, because people are breathing. So, I went into the field past the ditch to check on the sports car. There were two young guys in the car. The force of the impact had driven the engine to where the front passenger seat would be. The passenger seat was buckled, his crumpled hand grabbing the oh shit handle overhead. The entire section of car shoved into the back seat area. The back of the car had peeled away, and so has the passenger's top of his head. His jawbone gutted out raw and jagged. He was clearly deceased, but I felt for a pulse anyways, all while listening to the gasping, ragged, dragging breaths of the driver. No pulse on the passenger. I tried to figure out how to deal with the driver, but there was nothing I could do. The car had literally wrapped around him, and it would take an extraction team to get him out. Listening to his dying breathing, I apologized out loud to him that I couldn't do more. Told him I was sorry to leave him, but others needed my help too. In my heart, I know he'd never make it, so I went to render aid where it was needed. I did what I could for the family in the SUV. Emergency medical people and fire services got to the scene and took over. The entire family had injuries, but all survived. The mother had permanent brain damage and lost an eye. But the whole day, those two guys in the red sports car stayed in my mind. That night, I was home alone and getting ready for bed, with just the bedside lamp on. And then I heard something in the hallway. It got louder as it came down the dark hallway toward my open door. It was like a thump, drag. I absolutely froze. A broken hand curled around the frame of my doorway, and then that kid from the passenger seat was standing there, busted up just like he was in the car. I'm totally serious. He looked at me, and I can't recall the exact words of what he said, but it was something along the lines of, "Hey, my friend wants you to know he understands. He wants you to know he's okay. We both are. Thanks for trying." He stood there for about a few more seconds, just looking at me, and then he stepped back into the shadows, let go of the door frame, and I listened to him drag back down the hallway into nothing. I turned on every damn light I could. I slept with the lights on for 2 full weeks. I clipped out their death notices from the paper later that week. Turns out they were both high school seniors, on their way home from a wrestling tournament. Their car hydroplaned, from what the investigation determined. I'd never have recognized the blonde-headed kid if he had come to me in his healthy, unwrecked self. It freaked me the hell out that he came to me busted up. I still have the newspaper clippings. I'll never forget them, nor the ghostly visit. Anyway, that's my experience. I've seen a lot of shit in my 29-year career, but nothing quite like that before nor since. When I was working at a trauma center, I saw all sorts of unexplainable things, but one of the ones that sticks out to me the most was when a lady came in, passed out drunk, unresponsive, a typical case. We got her into a bed, did vitals, all the usual things that we could do until she could wake up and answer questions. Part of the intake vitals for an alcohol case was to do a EKG to rule out any signs that the behavior could be heart related. It was just her and I in the room with the door open, and suddenly she sits up straight, looks me dead in the soul, and says clearly, "You're thinking about quitting." I was, because I was unhappy with my job and was thinking about leaving the medical field. I told her so, because why not? She says, "You can't quit. People need people like you. I need people like you. You understand things." And then she immediately fell back into the bed, back to her original state. She did not become responsive until several hours later, which she didn't even remember coming to the hospital. Maybe not necessarily paranormal, but I still look back on the moment and can't help but feel a spark of something that was more than normal. Divine, perhaps? I don't know. I always refer to her as the drunken sidekick when I tell the story. So here's my story. Until I moved out last Friday for unrelated reasons. I was living in this basement apartment beneath the TV repair shop. My apartment was connected by a single door to the basement, which was down the stairs from the shop itself. The door opens in toward my apartment and is secured with a chain lock. It's all dark and spooky in there, and is completely empty other than some wood scraps and the water heater. There are no windows, and the only ways in are my door and a trap door up the stairs to the shop. Last week, I was in my living room one night when I heard a loud bang. I looked over and the door to the other basement was open, held in place only by a chain lock. There was no lock on the handle, nor is there a deadbolt. The door had been closed and secured before, and it doesn't open without the knob being turned, so I assumed someone was trying to break in and kicked the door open. I called 911 to report that my house was being broken into. I noted to the dispatcher that I hadn't heard a sound after the door opened. A few minutes later, 3 cops arrived, and I brought them downstairs and shooed them the door. They tactically entered the other basement, looking all badass with their guns drawn and flashlights out. One of the cops attempted to go up the stairs, but was unable to open the trapdoor to the shop, and he set off an alarm in the process. They told me there was no one in there, and there was no way anybody could have been in there. The upstairs door was jammed. If someone had opened it, then they would have set off the burglar alarm, and apparently it was covered in undisturbed cobwebs. He said, "Man, I totally believe you, and I don't think you're crazy, but you better call the Ghostbusters or something, cause this is beyond us." After he left, I noticed that the door handle was loose, and a big chunk of wood was missing around the tongue of my apartment side of the door. Scary as hell. Honestly, I never believed in ghosts, but this freaked me out big time, and I can't figure out an explanation. Luckily, I moved out 2 days later. Someone tell me what the hell happened, please. So this event happened approximately a week ago. I was going to post this in, but I wanted to let this digest a bit and not post a knee-jerk reaction. I'm a police officer in a city of about 30,000 people. I'm currently assigned on our midnight shift, working hours of 10 p.m. through 6 a.m. At the beginning of my shift, I'm called to a house in what can be described as the wealthiest part of town. I'm told by a dispatch that the resident of the house, a teenage girl, believes that an adult male is attempting to enter her home. I activate my lights and sirens, and I arrive at the home a short time later. I knock on the door and make contact with the caller, a frantic 18-year-old girl. My sergeant arrives on the scene a short time later. I asked her to describe what happened. She explains that while laying on the couch, she heard pounding on the front door. She then looked out the peep and didn't see anyone. She then heard banging on the back sliding glass door and screaming coming from outside. Again, she did not see anyone. We ask if anyone made entry into the home. She says no. My sergeant and I check the area, finding no footprints in the yard. We also check the dew in the grass, finding it to be undisturbed. We also checked the glass for fingerprints, and were unable to locate any. We chalked it up to the girl's friends playing a prank on her, or having an active imagination, and leave the house. Approximately 3 hours later, we are called back to the residence. We are notified that the female believes someone to be in the home this time. I beat my partner to the house by approximately 3 to 4 minutes. I entered and began to start speaking to the woman, who was visibly shaken. I'm told that she was awoken by more banging and a man saying, "I know you're in there." The woman states that she had barricaded the basement door with a chair, as she believes someone could easily enter the home through the attached garage. I tell her to stay put in the living room and go search the basement and garage. I draw my firearm and search the basement. During my search, I feel very uneasy as if I'm being watched. I complete my search as my partner arrives. I walk back upstairs and meet with her and tell her that I haven't cleared the rest of the home yet. She draws her weapon and helps me search the rest of the home. The last room we enter belongs to the woman, and it is her bedroom. Inside the bedroom, we find a Ouija board in plain view. We deem the resident safe and go back to the living room. At this point, the woman is shaking frantically and crying. We ask her if she lives alone. She states that she stays with her grandparents. She also states that they are out of town on business. She states that she is frequently home alone due to her grandparents being out of town. I ask her to call and speak with her grandpa. I speak with him and learn that the woman does not have any mental issues, nor behavioral issues. The woman also does not have any form of drugs that he knows of besides nicotine. Grandpa states he is going to call another family member to come look after the woman. We speak with the woman again, learning that she does not currently suffer from mental health issues. The woman also advises us that she found the Ouija board that day hidden in a closet of her home. She also asked if we would take her somewhere else. My partner, being a female officer, transported the woman back to our HQ, where she was picked up by a family member at a later time. I stayed at the home and searched the surrounding area. I did again not locate any signs of a person being outside the home. I don't know if this is the right place to post this, but I believe this girl may have experienced something. I for sure did not feel good while being in the basement. I used to be a big skeptic of the paranormal until I took this job. However, I have experienced and dealt with multiple things I could not explain in regards to call to service. My partner also stated she felt really uneasy while being in the house. Anyone think she may have stumbled across something paranormal? Or did we just feed into some paranoia of a young girl who is home alone? Unfortunately, I've not been called out to the home ever since, so I've not got to investigate into this occurrence any further. Thank you for listening to my experience, and thank you for all your time. I'm a 911 dispatcher, and these are two of my stories I have. I once answered a call. Two brothers were arguing over drinks. One of their girlfriends or wives were over. Anyways, the brothers were drinking heavily, and one pulls out a gun and shoots the other. When I received the call, I could barely get the guy's address over him screaming to send the paramedics. He keeps shouting, "Where the hell are they?" while I am trying to calm them down and give them CPR instructions, and tell him to tell the female there to stop the bleeding, firm pressure to the wound. The medical team cannot go on the scene until the police have secured the firearm. Listening to the pain in someone's voice while they are screaming for help kinda haunts you. Both of them are around 30 years old. I could not imagine killing another family member. I got another story. The next call I got was later in the night, probably around 11:30 p.m. A female calls me screaming. She's yelling, "I'm burning!" So I told her to stop, drop, and roll, and once the flames were out, I told her to turn on the hose and put the cool water on her until the paramedics get there. Once she was a little calmer, I was able to learn about what happened. So, she had been drinking with her boyfriend, and she got depressed and decided tonight was the night she was going to commit suicide and kill his girlfriend. So in his intoxicated state, he found a gas can and started dumping it on himself and his girlfriend and lit them both on fire, and also managed to catch the house, fence, and yard on fire. Both of them survived. He got the worst of the burns. The house and the fence had minimal damage.